All right, everyone, and welcome back to the NASA Reimagined podcast, where we explore the ideas, people, and technologies shaping the future of insurance and financial services. I'm Laura Dinan Haber, and today's episode is a very special one. As you all know, Connecticut has long been known as the insurance capital of the world, home to global carriers, deep actuarial talent, and a legacy of trust that spans generations. But what's happening right now across our industry goes far beyond tradition. We're seeing rapid innovation, new technology adoption, evolving regulation, shifting customer expectations, and a renewed focus on talent and workforce development, all converging to reshape what insurance looks like for the next decade. So today, we're going to take a real-time pulse check on the industry with a state of the state conversation focused on the current landscape of insurance in Connecticut. And I'm thrilled to be joined by two leaders who sit at the center of this momentum. Susan Winkler, a longtime champion of Connecticut's insurance industry and ecosystem development, and Commissioner Josh Hershman, who leads the Connecticut Insurance Department and plays a critical role in protecting consumers while enabling responsible innovation. So with all of that, welcome, Josh, welcome, Susan. I want to dive right in because our time today is going to go quickly. But Susan, let's start with you. What does insurance and the industry, the landscape within Connecticut look like right now and today?
First of all, thank you for having me. Good to see you again, Josh. The industry is evolving at a very, very quick pace, one that we have not seen in the past. You think of insurance, you think of, okay, it's institutional, it's stoic, it's slow. But the rate of change right now, whether it is geopolitical or whether there's social issues, health issues, everything that is impacting us as human beings, AI, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, that is where you see the insurance industry picking up its pace. And I think that's what's the differentiator today versus.
Yeah, Josh, what are you thinking from your perspective? And is there anything it's exciting you today, what you say?
Well, thanks, Laura, for having me here today. I'm excited to be here. One correction on my title. I'm interim. Today's March 1st, I think. March 12th is when I'll have my nomination meeting. Hopefully that will go well. So thank you for having me. And really, what I've started to piece together as the exciting part of the industry is the people, especially the people in Connecticut. Connecticut has, Susan has the numbers on it, but Connecticut has probably the largest infrastructure possible for insurance. And when we talk about innovation, we talk about what's changing and how quickly it's moving, it's going to be because of the people. And I think what we've seen over the years is executives and leadership in the insurance industry adapt from moving slow to moving fast. And it's because their mentalities have shifted. So I'm excited to watch people decide that these are things that we want to do. And hopefully that'll drive the insurance industry to the next stage.
And we are ranked number one in insurance. I'll just keep jumping up facts, but yeah, we are ranked number one in jobs, insurance jobs per capita in the U.S.
Diving in more on the people, right? Because that is a true differentiator. There's a city that will not go named in today's episode that refers to themselves as the Hartford of the West. And there's a lot that's going on here within our capital city, within this footprint, within carriers, the ecosystem, the partners, it's educational, it's academics, and it's stemming down into even, high school and younger as well. What are you seeing, Susan? Where are carriers investing? When we talk about the tomorrows, we talk about a lot of different things. We talk about evolution, there's technology, people, product, partnerships. But I think at the heart of it, we're in a state where we are supporting this industry and tomorrow could look very different. So where are you seeing from your board, where are people investing? What are those conversations sounding like and what is really resonating right now?
Well, I will say that they're investing in everything AI. And AI has been with us for a long time, you would say too, right, Commissioner?
Since the 80s.
And it's just becoming more evident. And as businesses are adopting it, and consumers are adopting it more in their everyday life, the inherent risk has grown. Mm-hmm. So I think all the insurance industry, whether it's life, health, or property casualty, are spending an enormous amount of time trying to get ahead of that so they can understand what the new risks are and place the reserves against those risks and ultimately protect the consumer. So I think there's a lot of work being placed right in that space right now.
Are you seeing the same? Are there any types of new discussions or ideas coming forward from a regulatory standpoint that might have felt different from 5 years ago?
Well, first, to be called the Hartford of the West, I think is a huge win.
It's true.
Hartford is an amazing city.
It is.
I love it here. And, it's a capital of Connecticut, but there aren't that many small New England cities that are the something of somewhere else. So
True.
I think that is a huge win for the state of Connecticut and Hartford in and of itself. So I love that. And I love the competition. You always have states always trying to get their segment and get their lane. And I think it's very hard to beat Connecticut in this space. But, to answer your question around how things are sort of different and how regulators are thinking about artificial intelligence. When I go around talking to carriers, what I'm saying now is if you're not really using it, you are going to be falling behind. That we have to be driving affordability, we have to be driving availability, and artificial intelligence is going to help drive those things. And it's on the regulator's job to figure out how to make sure that we have the tools, make sure that we have the understanding. It's our responsibility to be in constant communication with the carriers and to help them along the way. We have existing statutes and regulations that we need to make sure are going to continue to be in compliance with once artificial intelligence is adopted at the highest levels. And I think we're going to be seeing that. Insurance typically is a little bit behind the banking industry, and the banking industry, I think, has really gone full steam into this, and we'll see what happens in the insurance space. But the regulators are here ready to support and ready to make it possible for the consumers to be protected and the carriers to drive this innovation. And hopefully that'll drive down costs and drive up availability.
Yeah, something I've seen, Limra Loma has a AI industry group that I've been a part of for a number of months now. And it's fascinating to sit on those calls and you hear from carriers all over the country. How are they using AI? How are they thinking about it? And the conversation has evolved as the usage has evolved, right? Before it was about governance and structure and how are we going to do this internally? And now it's running POCs, now it's enterprise-wide tools, et cetera. It's been great to see, I'll say, the openness and the potential for partnership there for even carrier to carrier to say, these are our struggles, here's how we're solving that. What can I learn from you? What can you learn from me? So I guess, Josh, follow-up question to that would be, is there something within the marketplace, whether it's carriers or other ecosystem partners, that you think could help kind of the evolution of this experience since we're all learning together? Are there things that we should be potentially doing, right? Or should we be having these open forums and conversations, or where do you think this could potentially go?
It's going to be an interesting process to sort of mass adoption. I think every carrier has their own ethos on how they want to drive their adoption of technology, and some carriers are more conservative, and other carriers are are more aggressive from a technology standpoint. I think just open dialogues with your regulators is helpful. I think having these forums, National Association of Insurance Commissioners has ongoing dialogues and what use cases are taking place. And there's always surveys and there's always data calls around how carriers are using artificial intelligence. And the problem with those are we're always like a year behind because we're talking about stuff from the year. Development and the adoption is just moving way quicker, I think, than anyone realizes. So, I think that the way to make this grow quicker and also make it grow in a responsible way is by having discussions like even we're having right now, just
Right.
like being open and honest and explaining to the consumer and your regulator how you're using it, why you're using it. Transparency is going to be huge in this space. And I think having the framework around that is important.
Yeah, that's great. And Susan, I want to shift the needle a little bit around key trends, right? We're talking about things that are shaping the industry, AI technology being one of them. We've talked about the human element as well. But what are you seeing in terms of, which trends are structural versus just buzzwords?
I think, and I could say clearly that we've worked together on this, a commissioner with the Ensuring the Future event, climate, before I go too far. Climate forces, severe convective storms, etc. The Department of Insurance and CTIFS put on an event for the last 2 years, Ensuring the Future, that focused on the impact of climate. And for the first time last year, we actually took that to the health side too. What is the impacts of climate change in health, whether fires, floods, etc., environmental? So I think that is one trend that is structural, that is there, it's physical, and it's having a tremendous impact to the insurance industry. I would say another one is the fact that we're living longer. That affects life. It affects health, those two sectors of insurance. And of course, with that, there are certain things that you want to be prepare for. as you age, and you want to make sure you're doing the best. And the insurance companies are there to help support whatever retirement plans you have and your life plans for health and et cetera. So I think those are trends, physical trends that are happening that are there, and the insurers are answering the call.
I agree. I agree, Susan, entirely. I think, the climate aspect of it is super interesting because it's not only the natural catastrophes, it's also the
Right.
impact, like you said, on the health. I mean,
The health.
heat exposure is a
Right.
huge issue. Cities and states are trying to solve for that problem, and carriers have to put this as a
Right.
real risk for them, and how rising, heat can impact health insurance or life insurance. And it's going to be an ongoing dialogue. I'm proud to be part of an industry that is going to continue to put climate front and center because, maybe at the national level that has changed the dialogue. Some carriers, some other industries, the dialogue has changed slightly, but in insurance, it really hasn't. It still is a huge, important conversation to constantly be having. And I think it's one that at Connecticut we'll continue to have for as long as possible.
And you brought up the heat exposure too, and I hope this is educational to some folks that are looking at insurance as a possible career choice. Like, why should I? It's kind of boring, right? That statement you made about heat exposure, take it to the construction industry. That's a very, very important part of a construction plan of a general contractor's business interruption, business support system in insurance. So it gets to the point where you're not only just thinking, oh, it's hot outside today. How is that impacting a particular person, a job, and then ultimately how's insurance impacted on that?
Yeah, and it's interesting when you think about it, right? Like we have a family construction business, and when the temperatures go over 100 plus degrees, it's where's the water coming from? Who can actually work? Are there people who are unable to work? What does
Right.
that impact look like on the job? What does that impact look like on the promises that are made to the finish and the completion, the deadlines? It's real, and it's a great example of you may not, as a listener, have known that is something that the industry is keeping an eye on in a very serious way, but it's one of many things that is under the cloak of insurance. So if we dive deeper under that cloak, I want to talk more about talent workforce and NextGen, right? Something that's very exciting. We had a previous episode that I recorded with Larissa Burke from UConn and Deputy Commissioner Jared Koski about the future of the insurance industry and what does NextGen look like. So I know, Susan, you have a very important program that you run through your organization, Actuarial Bootcamp. Number one, please tell us a little bit about that and tell us, why do you host that?
Well, first of all, it's a retention tool, actually, because we're training our high school students who are very, at least interested in math, may have some proficiency, but we want to hold them here. So we're building our young actuaries and feeding them an opportunity when they're still in high school to ultimately have them work in our workforce. And I would like to put a plug out to NASA, who is hosting this year's camp in July. So we're really excited about that. On that, like the interesting thing about actuary, and I've been running this camp for 16 years. Last year, we brought in AI into the equation. The actuaries, you're going to laugh about this, the actuaries would give homework assignments, right? And the students would take those diligently home. Well, they could figure that out in 30 seconds, in about 2 minutes with ChatGPT. And so the instructors were like, okay, now we have to talk about the ethics of that. Sure, you can work on that. Let's talk about the ethics and the management of that. Maybe there's a model manipulation. What is is there any bias? How about the fact of the actual truth in the response? And so the whole actual boot camp, which I've been running for 16 years, switched last year. It became completely different as far as what the homework assignments were and what the students were able to do.
Yeah, and that's so true. Artificial intelligence is very dangerous when it comes to using it for actuarial studies and
Yes.
reports and whatnot. I look at it from a positive lens because it gives me the ability to understand and then ask questions, which sometimes I think frustrates some of the actuaries that I deal with because otherwise I wouldn't know. But I think the ethics around it is super interesting. But to the point of the workforce, what Susan does with the actuarial bootcamp is phenomenal. What we do at the Connecticut Insurance Department is we have an actuarial division and we have interns from UConn. We're working on trying to develop that program to turning it into a pipe directly into the Connecticut Insurance Department for full-time employee right after, and really having it be more of a training, right? Connecticut's the best place to be an actuary because we have so many different carriers, whether it's health or property and casualty or supporting captives. There's so many opportunities to be an actuary in Connecticut. And at the insurance department, we want to do our part to try to attract talent, maintain the talent, because that will make the whole ecosystem stronger.
I want to say rank number one again, because we do have the highest
Yeah, I'm
concentration
sure.
of actuaries. So I just want to put that plug out there.
I'll jump on the plug for Connecticut. I think even too, just looking at the partnerships across these different boot camps, the internship programs. I know here at NASA, we have a very strong program that is growing year over year. We've hired in previous interns. We actually have Actuarial Bootcamp students from last year who are interning this year. So it's a mission, and I think it's a focus not only for us here at NASA, but other carriers in the area to say, how can we take this young talent, this new evolving talent, and get them deep seated here in Connecticut? We have the best opportunities across multiple pieces of the insurance industry, but it's also a really great place to live, work, and play. So had to throw that in there. But some of what we come up with in these conversations around NextGen are perceptions of the industry, right? People can say it's a sleepy industry. It's the industry that my grandparents worked in. And that's not necessarily untrue, but I don't know that it's true to the same degree anymore. When I go to classes and when I go to boot camp, talk about the work that I do in the innovation space within insurance, I see eyes light up. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. And guess what? In 2019, when I joined NASA, previous to that, I didn't know it was a thing. So it's really exciting to look deeper into the industry, and it's looking at careers that may not be as obvious or literal as, say, as an actuary or an underwriter or a claims adjuster, but looking for those unique things. Question would be, Susan, Josh, we'll start with Susan on this one. What's a unique insurance career that you think someone may not be aware of?
I don't know what the title is, but at this point, it's a thinking position. Someone who has a creative focus, who is able to look beyond the numbers. I think there's a lot of analytical students, and I think we have a lot of IT. So I think it's a combination of being analytical and critical thinker. That's where the positions are right now.
I'll go a little in a different direction, but I think you're right, Susan. That what people maybe might not realize is that you're a content creator or social media influencer. Insurance carriers will pay you a lot of money to come and work for them because they have huge marketing budgets. They have a big, how many commercials you see for Progressive or
Right.
for
Yes.
all the major,
Yeah.
they have tons and tons of money that they're putting into this because what they're doing is they're offering pretty much the same product. All these large carriers have very similar degrees of competency that they're going to pay out their claims. So they're just differentiating themselves with their marketing. And I think that the perception that insurance sometimes is the like ugly stepchild of the financial services industry needs to go away. And people should start having this be their first career choice and say, you know what, I've been doing some content creation. I've been doing some social media influencing. I'm halfway through college. I want to go work at an insurance carrier and do this because there's so much opportunity across the entire ecosystem that is an insurance company. And I think everyone needs to realize that every component has lots and lots of availability and opportunity. And the numbers are interesting. I think the workforce in insurance is constantly going up and down, but there's opportunity in insurance. And if I were more creative of a person, maybe I would be an influencer at an insurance carrier.
Here we go.
Listen, we can set this up, Josh. Have your people call my people.
Oh, Lord, if I could say
Yeah.
also, the Connecticut DOL just released numbers, and we actually, as an industry, have grown year over year. So in Connecticut, we are now seeing an increase. And I love your idea about if you're an influencer, come to work for an insurer. Well, if you're a nurse, if you're a practitioner, if you have a certain background in an industry, the insurance industry is looking for you. So back on the competitive advantage, they're all striving for competitive, right? So if you have somebody who's a subject matter expert in health, that insurance company wants to hire you now to make sure that they are developing the right products that are either mental health or something which is a large issue right now.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think the
your place is
baseline for this conversation is whatever you're doing right now, you
Yes.
could be doing it at an
an
insurance
insurance
company.
company,
That
100%.
is the baseline.
100%.
Yeah, I really like that a lot. And, it just shows how much availability and opportunity there is in ways that someone may not have realized. But I want to shift gears from, the opportunities within the talent base to the opportunities within our realities of a fast-moving world. Talked very briefly, and we touched on regulation and how it can actually fuel trust and innovation. And I think especially in insurance, and Josh, you talked about the importance of transparency, of partnership, of working together with regulators to really balance protection and the speed of innovation together. So trailering on that, what are you seeing between risks? And we talked about AI, but are there any other new risks that may require new or different approaches? And let's say the last 1 to 3 years.
Well, I mean, we talked briefly on it. I won't say it's not the last 1 to 3 years, but the risk that is always sort of front and center to me is climate risk. I think that availability and affordability are huge risks. I think flood is, again, it is not a new risk, but it is a material risk that consumers sometimes forget about just because you don't see the water, you don't smell the water, you don't hear the water. Well, you might be in a floodplain. And what is your access to flood insurance? There's the NFIP, the National Insurance Flood Program. They make it possible for pretty much anyone to get flood insurance, but the foundation of it may or may not be shifting. And my job is going to be to make sure that there's enough available private sector companies that are here to offer flood insurance. So I think that there's always evolving risks, and risks that might not have felt like a problem a few years ago are a problem now. And then the risks that are a problem now might not be a problem in a few years. So it's just a shifting dynamic of risk.
It's cars driving faster on the highway now. I want to put that out there because we see cars driving significantly faster on the highways, accidents occurring as a result of that. That's all property casualty. You have cyber increasingly attacking not only our systems, but municipal systems or energy grids. So there's a trend, I think, there where cyber is through global risk. With the things that are happening today, you have global unrest, and there's could be impacts to supply chain. And what people don't realize is those big tankers or the big supply chains or your merchandise in stores are all insured. And so these things all have impacts to ultimately to insurance, the insurance industry.
That's important to call out. And even thinking about the way that people consume items, right? If you think about the Amazons of the world, I need this widget. I'm going to get this widget delivered in the next 4 hours or the next 24 hours. It's going to be quick. Well, the widget's coming from somewhere, likely within a truck, a very large truck. The widget then goes on to a smaller truck that are driving the back roads at all different hours, right? We've all received like the 11:30 p.m. Amazon deliveries, wondering why it's arriving at 11:30 p.m. But that's another piece of the thought process too, is how are we consuming? What are the expectations? How did those expectations evolve, especially during the pandemic when everyone was kind of shut in with their homes and people found digital solutions to what used to be physical realities, the impacts on the insurance industry and the downstream effects, some of which that we're feeling today and some we may not feel yet, TBD there. But I think that's another interesting lens that I've been watching is what are the expectations of consumers? Is it generational? What does that shift look like? And then what are those potential impacts that we may not be seeing there? So that's another one. And it's a good one to call out too for the insurance on those goods as they're coming from their origination point.
And then the return of those goods, that a lot of insurance plays a role in that too.
Absolutely. So leaping ahead, I want to do some quick insights, right? We're getting to the top of our episode. I'm going to ping pong between the two of you and good luck.
Not that quick.
You can either answer the question I asked or you can answer the question I asked Susan. So we touched on this a little bit, but I want to get it on the record. Susan, what is one trend that will define the next 3 years? One trend.
Come on, Susan.
I don't want to say it because I'm trying to think of something else.
We won't hold you to it.
It's going to be the use of AI in all businesses and the impacts and the risks associated with that.
I second that.
I was trying to think of something else.
That's fair. I mean, how can we not say it, right?
I know.
Going back to the careers that we didn't know we needed.
That's right.
There are large organizations listing careers for content creators, for storytellers specifically, north of $400K for a salary, because the human element and what we do, right? We think back in the earliest days of history is individuals gathered around, maybe it's a campfire, maybe it's another place, telling stories. And we're losing that. So the fact of the matter that we have large employers hiring storytellers at significant investment should tell us a little bit about something potentially.
I know what I want to do when I retire. Yeah, I'm going to be a storyteller.
I was going to say, I think AI will take over that role as well.
I'm going to be the human storyteller.
It'll sound and look human.
That's fair. We're going to come back to this in 3 years and see where we're at. Sure. Okay. One risk the industry must get ahead of.
I did the ping. You're doing the pong.
We talked about a lot of them. And I'll just say, like, the immediate risk in my mind that the industry needs to be focusing on is flood.
Okay. I like it. All right, Susan, one opportunity Connecticut is uniquely positioned to win.
Talent, 100%. We compete all the time for other states that should be not named, but our talent here is rich. It's highly skilled, highly educated, very innovative, and I think you can't get that anywhere else.
I'll say, I'll piggyback a little bit off of that and say ecosystem. I mean, look around the table right here, right now. It's a pretty impressive ecosystem to have. And carriers come to the table. Captive industry comes to the table. You'll have innovation through Susan's program and Nassau's programs that they run. And it's an amazing ecosystem that exists. And we have reinsurance downstate. There's everything in the state of Connecticut.
You're right. And I want to give a plug to Reimagine too. You're a foothold here for Hartford and for what you do on the innovation front. We thank you for that very much. But it's a system, it's the ecosystem. Everywhere, we have the UK corridor that has its ability to foster Insurtech business from the UK to Connecticut and vice versa. And I will say that for everybody who comes to Connecticut as a result of that partnership, can't believe the amount of ecosystem that is there, the support, the phone calls. It's quick. We're strong, we're small and mighty. There is nothing to prevent the chief regulator from providing his time to that startup to say, what do you need? Or, you know what, that technology has some holes in it. Let me tell you where those holes are or why it will not work in the US. And then we have the insurer and the insurance company saying the same thing. Let me tell you why it does not fit or why it does fit. And hey, we're gonna run a POC on you.
And we'll take it full circle to talent, and then you have the talent
Now
to
we have
fill
the
the role.
And then we get them to live here, the economic growth. No, it's good. And last question here as we wrap, and I want to hear from each of you. What is one reason to continue to be optimistic about the future of insurance?
It's up to you. I'm happy to go. I'm gonna. This is really gonna upset people. Artificial intelligence.
I don't want to say that. Well, I think it does in this sense. I will say, I'm going to try to not say that word. I'll say innovation is here. It's centered in Hartford, insurance capital, and it's not going anywhere. It's also the ecosystem, the community you mentioned. You cannot find that anywhere else where you have chief regulator, insurance company, trade associations, public-private partnerships. You hear that vernacular, and it is true here.
And it's transparent. Look, we're all talking
together.
I appreciate that. It's a good sentiment to close on. So Susan, Josh, great conversation today. And it really highlights a lot of important things. But Connecticut isn't just maintaining its legacy as the insurance capital of the world. We're actively redefining what leadership looks like in digital, data-driven, and innovation-powered era. So from emerging tech and AI to the public-private corporation collaboration, the partnership, the engagement, building the next gen of insurance talent and talent for the world, really, it's clear that our industry is being shaped right here in Hartford, Connecticut. So I want to extend a huge thank you to Susan, Josh. Thank you both for being here today. I'm excited for, our next conversation and what we're going to do as we head out of these two walls and back into our lovely city of Hartford to continue the evolution and innovation. And to our listeners, thank you for being part of the growing innovation community. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, share it with a colleague, and join our conversation online because the future of insurance is being built today and Connecticut is leading the way. Thanks so much.